Hi everyone, welcome back. Roll the intro. You might notice something different about this video, and if you watched my last video before the unboxing, I talked about how I wanted to get better equipment to film better videos for you guys. Now, although this is not on my camera, I am filming on my phone for this video, and my amazing boyfriend got me a tripod, so I'm very excited to actually film a video. It looks more colorful. I'm wearing a very bright color. I'm able to sit closer to a window that has amazing lighting in the middle of the day. And so I wanted to kind of veer off from useful for a little bit and film another fun video for you guys today. You might notice that I'm wearing very nice clothes, and I did my makeup, and I'm wearing awesome jewelry that I love. And the reason for that is because I kind of dress a little more mellow in my day-to-day life, usually because I'm running late 99% of the time. And I also work an office job and another job that requires a costume, so I don't really get to wear really fun outfits. So I was hoping you guys wouldn't mind if I kind of dress a little more fun for these videos, because it's really fun being able to dress up for this. So hope you don't mind that. But today's video is going to be a tour of my books. I haven't really spoken about my love for reading, and I wanted to give you guys some backstory on me as a reader, as a little bit of a writer, and just talk about something that I love so dearly. So in my catch-up video about where I've been for the last, few months, I spoke about using different media. I feel like I've spoken about this a little bit in a few different videos of Museful, where consuming media is still a form of creativity because it allows your brain to kind of function in that creative way, while also it's more of an input instead of an output of creativity. And who doesn't love being inspired by things that they like and just consuming things that bring you joy? And I find it, not only entertaining but inspiring to consume things that just are creative from other people. That's why we buy prints of, other artists, and we consume the art of other people, whether it's movies, books, things like that. And so I have always loved reading and writing from a very young age. When I was in, middle school age, 10 to 13, I used to write my own books on Wattpad. And this is before it became the fan fiction hub of One Direction stories. This is before that, and I was never a directioner. But when I found Wattpad, I was looking for a way to write stories digitally without having to do it by hand, because I love putting, pencil to paper and writing things by hand. But when you're writing a few pages of a story, it can get very tiring very quickly. And so I wanted to find a digital way of doing it. And I remember Googling free writing tool, and Wattpad came up, and it was still very early in its before it became so ad filled and books were being published off of Wattpad. This is before all of that in 2010. And I was so excited. I created a whole account and I started, consuming books that other people my age were writing and writing my own books. I've always been a big lover of the werewolf genre. This is also during the Twilight books being published. This is that dystopian era, and although the books now looking back were very cringy, it made sense for a preteen girl, and especially in 2010. So looking back, I used to read a lot of those kinds of books, and I wanted to write my own, and I actually did. I remember one of my books, it was called Revenge. It had a really low quality photo of a wolf on fire, and I was I really love this photo and I want to make a story kind of around it, which is a little difficult, but what came to fruition was my story Revenge, and at its peak it hit 70,000 views. And after that happened, I hit a really bad writer's block at 13, and I stopped writing the book. And eventually I became so self-critical at that age that I felt the need to delete it. And I wish I never did. It's one of my biggest regrets now, but it just shows like how passionate I was, and I wanted to be good at that thing. And I always thought I was going to become a writer, and I ended up never doing that, but in my adult life, obviously. But it's funny how I kind of still ended up in a career where I'm very creative. And with that being said, I feel like now is the perfect time to talk about all of my books and, you know, the books that I've read, the books that I like, and talk about some of my favorite books that I currently have. So growing up, I always wanted a library in my, you know, future house, and I still do. I went a long time after the whole deleting my own story. I stopped reading on Wattpad, and I stopped reading books altogether for a few years, and I always wanted to go back to it. Me and my great friend Erica went to a coffee shop one night, and she spent like 2 hours talking about a book. And I asked her like what was the name of it, like, and I liked the plot of it to the point where I was like, I need to buy this book, this sounds pretty good. And even though she spoiled the whole thing for me, I still wanted to read it. And so I remember just buying that book after she told me about it, and it like re-kickstarted my passion for books and reading in like 2022. And so that book was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. And so if you've read this book, you kind of know, or you might understand the type of reader I am just by this book. I am a romance only reader. I have always been a hopeless romantic, and it's definitely true in the books that I read. I have loved romance since day one. It's like, and it doesn't get cheesy to me, or maybe it gets cheesy a little bit, but I love romance so much. It just tugs on my heartstrings every time, and it's just the best. So The Kiss Quotient got me back into reading thanks to my amazing friend Erica, and I'm so glad that she told me about this for like 2-3 hours, because after that I bought this book. I read the entire thing cover to cover. I think I read it in like 3 days, and I needed more books. I needed more and more and more. And so after that, I picked up, you might recognize this from TikTok, or Book Talk I should say, when it was booming, The Love Hypothesis. And so this book was the second book I read right after The Kiss Quotient, and again, same kind of content, but different. So Ali Hazelwood's, you know, The Love Hypothesis, I really loved the story because she talks about women in STEM, and while simultaneously talking about like romance, and that's like the forefront of the story, but also something else is going on in the background. And so it's just such a fun ride with Ali, and that's why she's one of my authors that I have the most books from. These are not in any particular order, but these are all the books that I have from Ali. There we go. So, oh, it goes right back to my face. So yeah, these are the books that I currently have. Bride is the most recent to come out, I think last year, and it's a werewolf book, and she's actually coming out with another werewolf book. And well, this one is werewolf, vampires, and humans, and her next one I think is only werewolves. And it's such a full circle moment to read a published werewolf book, because, you know, back in 2010, I mean, at least to me at the time, reading wasn't as cool as it is now. And, you know, having more published books about things like, you know, fantasy with the werewolf realm and contemporary romance, it's just so refreshing to see. I went into this video with like no plan. Just talking about my books. I have 6 books from Ali Hazelwood. Let's see, what other authors that I have? Tessa Bailey, Elena Armas. I've got Helen Huang and Anna Huang. Abby Jimenez. Oh my goodness, Abby Jimenez. So, Emily Henry. So all of these authors are just they hit the nail on the head with the contemporary romance, because they're just such fresh writing. I love Ali's the most, I would say, right now, because her writing is just so like, I could never get tired of it. And my boyfriend even bought me Check and Mate, and I thought, oh, it's just like a chess book. Usually I don't like books that are about like sports or like games or anything like that, but I gave this book a try and I was obsessed with it. I read it, I wouldn't say fast, but because I was busy at the time, but I definitely this book had a grip on me, and I loved it so much that I would read it again. I definitely gave this book, I think, a 4 or a 5. I don't remember, I'll have to check. But I remember feeling very frustrated with the main character because of her, just the way that she thinks, but the rest of the book was just so good. And it ends, spoiler alert, skip ahead 5 seconds, it ends on a cliffhanger. It ends on a cliffhanger. Why? Okay, 5 seconds ahead. So yeah, so that's like a little bit of a tour of my books. Let's talk about the book that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading Happy Place by Emily Henry. She has also become one of my favorite authors because her writing style is just so like deep, and it makes you feel like a yearning for something, I'll definitely say. When I only have one other book by her. This book, Beach Read, was the first book that I read from her, and oh my goodness, it made me ugly cry. If I have the picture, I will insert it now, but this book made me ugly cry. It was so beautiful because in this story, the main character, I'm not gonna go through the entire plot, but the main character has like, her father like passed away, and he had this beach house that he would have an affair with his wife, her mother, I guess. He had like a secret life, and she was always close with her dad, and so she ends up going to the beach house that he secretly had the whole time when he was alive, and he left it in her name. Anyway, traumatic. But when she's speaking about the love for her dad and also feeling betrayed by him and missing him, it's a very like complicated feeling, and I feel like Emily just put the words like in such an amazing way and just made me ugly cry because, you know, it's so human and it's so refreshing to see her capture that. Happy Place, and so I'm on chapter 23 of Happy Place. I'm like a little bit over halfway. This book is also quickly becoming one of my favorites because it makes me so sad. It's a will they won't they book about, and for the first time in a book, it's about a couple who has already broken up. They were engaged, and they're a part of this like friend group who are like very close. Like that's their second, and maybe even for some of the characters, first family. And they don't want to break the news to their friends that they have broken up because it's going to break all of their hearts. And they're all staying at this cottage, and that's like their happy place. And they don't know like how to break it to them, and so they're kind of the two main characters, Harriet and Wynn. Wynn, that's how I say it in my head. Harriet and Wynn, they are like still fighting like the love that they have for each other, but also accepting the fact that like even though we have this love for each other, we're in a place that kind of distorts how we feel, and we know that we should be broken up. And so it's really hard because I want them to get back together so badly. But the whole book so far has been a will they, won't they. And right now it's looking like won't they. And I feel like it's gonna break my heart at the end, and they're actually not gonna get back together for all the right reasons. And Emily Henry's writing is just so refreshing because it's more human in that way. I feel the same about Abby Jimenez's books, especially one of my good friends, Amanda, got me this book for my graduation, as a graduation present just for the summer. And this book, wow, the covers look eerily similar. I'm kidding, joking. Maybe they have the same artist. Anyway, sorry. Abby Jimenez's book also talks about like having certain thought processes as a person and how you process things and running away from your problems. And I had no idea that this book was a sequel. I read it as a standalone. And that's the problem, is most of the time I don't do enough research on these books. I just kind of pick them up at the store and I'm like, I like the story, and it doesn't say that it's a sequel. And so I just started reading, and then at the end when I read her author's note and some of the discussion questions, I was like, oh, well, that makes a little bit of sense. I should probably read the first one. And yeah, that also happened to me when I read Tessa Bailey's book, Unfortunately Yours. This book, I read it twice. I read it twice because I read it and then I found out it was a sequel, and then I read the first one, Secretly Yours. My shelf is gonna fall. I read the first one, Secretly Yours, and then Unfortunately Yours. It made much more sense because there were some parts in Unfortunately Yours that I didn't understand, but I still loved it, and I think that's what matters here. That's what matters. Oh man. I also found out that Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey is also a sequel. So I feel like we need to make it a little more obvious when I'm first opening the pages that they're sequels. Tips for these authors, because I know they're totally watching. So unironically, I spoke about how Ali Hazelwood is one of the authors I have the most books from. That actually might not be true because I have a bunch from Tessa Bailey as well. And it's funny because I find her books like to be easily digestible, but I feel like the writing needs to be a little more fleshed out. Not to be critical of her writing, because clearly I digest a lot of it, but at the same time, like, I feel like all of her books are like 3s and 4s in my book. I would have to look at my reviews, which, by the way, in case you want to see my reviews, they usually have spoilers in them, but you can see how many stars I rate them on this app called Fable. I'll link it down below, but I love reviewing my books on there. One of my friends told me, actually, one of my friends did not tell me about it. I found out through one of my favorite YouTubers right now, Hannah Elise. She was reading like the ACOTAR series, the Fourth Wing series, which I'll get into later, and she posted on her Instagram story that she wanted to start reviewing books on Fable. She never did, but that's okay, because either way, Fable found me through her, and I thank her for that, because there's like reading streaks, there's a bunch of like book clubs on there, and it's such a great app. I really love it. I don't know what I was talking about before, but The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. Right, I was talking about Abby Jimenez. I really went into this with no plan. This book by Abby Jimenez, The Friend Zone, also made me cry because, again, she just is able to communicate such human feelings in her books. And I feel like the main character, Kristen, could have been a little more flushed out, but for the most part, like, I'm not gonna get into it. I shouldn't. Maybe I'll make like a solo video about each book, because I have so many feelings when I'm reading them, and I love to just talk about them to people because it's like a whole other journey when I'm reading these books, and it's just so great. My brain like literally has a movie while I'm reading these books for the most part, unless I'm like really not enjoying it. But again, it's like a version where I can have a creative output by reading these. It's so great. Input is what I meant to say. I can have a creative input by reading these because it's just coming into my brain and it's making me like see these movies and feel these feelings. And even though I'm not writing myself, I feel like I still get the same joy digesting it that I would if I were still writing. Oh, another author that I really love and have not mentioned at this point is Ashley Poston. I first read her book, The Dead Romantics. It caught my attention, and I think my boyfriend may have bought this for me as well. But I really like the concept of Florence, spoiler alert. She is a writer. She's a ghostwriter for an author who is a very famous romance author. and her family works in the funeral service industry, and her father passes away, so she goes back home, but she's able to see ghosts. It's just like a thing that she has and a thing that she's able to do, and that's like one of the main points in the story, that she's able to see ghosts because this one ghost, who is her editor, his ghost has like been following her around. So and here's why I like Ashley's books, is like, it's a main part of the story, but it's not the part of the story. Like, she's not going around speaking to a bunch of ghosts. The book just happens to be this character who can see ghosts, and she has a situation with one of them, her editor, in fact. And so I really liked her book because it's not so in your face with the supernatural. So like, it's a very laid back, comfy supernatural romance. And I felt the same about The 7-Year Slip. This book was incredible because of Ashley's ability to, again, write a supernatural book. This one's about an apartment in New York that is able to travel, that randomly travels through time. And so you'll go into the apartment and it'll be 7 years into the past, and that person will see somebody from 7 years into the future. And so this one broke my heart and put it back together, and then broke my heart again. And I love this book, and it made me think about my life in general. I think The Dead Romantics did as well, where there are these books about like life and death. Both of them coincidentally talk about both of those topics, and like in a very refreshing way that makes you think about your own life and contemplate these things that we don't really like to think about as people in our everyday lives because they're too deep and they're kind of upsetting, but there are things that we need to think about in our lives. So I talked about this in my MegaCon video, but I'm so happy to talk about it now. Let me start talking about my to be read list because it's not very big. I already had these two books, the Beautiful Creatures books 1 and 2. I've had these since I was like 13, back when I was reading back then. I read the Hunger Games series, I read the Matched series, along with like regular school books. Some of them are good and I have them over there, like The House of Mirth, and there's another book, I forgot what it's called, The Good Earth. I think The Good Earth. Those books were really good for school, but I picked up these two books after, I think after I saw the movie, I bought both of these, and then I never read them. I don't know why I never read them. So then I want to say in 2023, I read Beautiful Creatures and I liked it. It was very different from the movie and I love the movie. But for some reason it felt a little slow for me in some ways, but it's because it's a 4-part series and it's a fantasy, and I am a contemporary romance reader, so the romance was like secondary, the fantasy was primary in this book. And so I didn't pick up the second book right after it like I usually would, but what I will say is after I met Cami Garcia at MegaCon, I definitely want to revisit it because she told me that the third book is her favorite in the series. Now, a lot of really fun things happen in this series. If you haven't seen the movie or read the books at this point, you know, I don't know what to tell you. It's been out for a really long time. But Lena and Ethan are two very interesting characters, and I just love the world building with like that underground Caster's library that they have near the library. Like the human library has an underground library, and I just love things like that. I remember my favorite YouTuber Hannah talking about this book called The Midnight Library. That's on my TBR, but I definitely want to pick up the series again because I want to know what happens. I am definitely the type of person to like sit through a book even if I don't like it because I need to know what the ending is. So I would love to like continue the series and see what happens to Ethan and Lena because I really like their characters. And in case you didn't know from my MegaCon video, I was able to have Cami Garcia sign this. What a gift that is. I had no idea that she was also the author of Beautiful Creatures. I knew she wrote the Beast Boy and Raven series, and then obviously Gabriel Piccolo illustrated it. I think it was just meant to be. I feel like it was meant to be. I was meant to meet her. And then she told me that these are first editions books. So I didn't know that. She said if the print on the outside matches this like inside sleeve, it's a first edition. Because then after they reprinted them, they were in black, and she had never seen them so like put to get like in good condition. And I'm the type of person, this is a little controversial, sometimes depending on the book I will break the spines. Because I like reading like physical books, I will crack it open. I want to make sure I can hold the pages open. Now I put my phone, like when I'm reading at like work on lunch or something like that, I'll put my phone on it so that it'll hold it open while I'm eating or whatever. But definitely in the beginning when I was reading again in 2022, I was breaking spines, and I don't want to break the spine of a first edition. I'm hoping I can find the first editions of 3 and 4, but like she said, they're very difficult to find, so one day. But Beautiful Creatures is on my TBR. Now, I'm going to wrap up this video considering that my phone's running out of space for one, and I think I've rambled enough about my books. I went into this video with absolutely no plan about what I was going to talk about. I just knew I wanted to talk about my books. The idea of talking about books, you know, every chapter that I finish in like short form videos has been presented to me from my boyfriend, and I am considering it. If you think it's a good idea, like this video and leave a comment to let me know. It is something I'm interested in. I don't want to be like a full-blown like book YouTuber, but I spend so much time and money reading these books, so I might as well talk about them online because I have a really big passion for these stories that I read every day. Yeah. Comment what you think I should read. I'm avoiding ACOTAR and Fourth Wing and all of those really popular book series right now because, again, I'm a contemporary romance reader. And I like fantasy, but I don't love fantasy, so if it's like heavy on the fantasy, I'm probably not gonna have a good time reading it anyway. If I'm interested in the story, I will circle back around later after the hype. But for now, I'm not gonna be reading those books. I refuse. Aside from that, leave other book recommendations in the comments down below that you'd like to see me read and talk about. I will definitely start, you know, talking about my reviews and things like that. If you like the new setup, let me know. But thank you so much for joining me as I talked about all of the books that I really love, and understand that if you haven't, you know, done anything creative in a really long time, you are still an artist. You're just taking a break, and that's perfectly okay. I am still an artist even though I haven't painted anything in a year. I feel like I said before, and I'll keep hammering it into your brains, when you digest all of these different creative outputs and that other people have made, or, you know, you have just such a passion for this one thing, even though you're not creating things in a traditional sense, you're still digesting a lot of creativity and you're being inspired by other people every day, and your brain is still probably lighting up in the areas where it would if you were creating artwork. And I don't think that's a crime. I think it's okay to like digest other people's artwork and still find joy in that and passion in that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this before I keep on rambling and run out of more space in my phone. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. It really helps me out and shows me that there are people out there who want to see my opinions. As for museful videos, I don't know what the next video will be about, but like I said, I'm gonna keep making content hopefully once a month, stick to that schedule, and then from there, we'll see what we can do. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next video. Bye! Also, to defend my romance reading only thing, look at how beautiful these books are. They're beautiful pastel colors. Why would I want to give that up? I love my cute little pastel books. Also, before I really run out of space, let me give you a tour of my bookmarks. So, first, we gotta start with something cute. This is a bookmark. Can you see it? Oh. There. Can you see me? That's me as a little baby. Well, I think I was in like 2nd grade. And they used to give us like a whole spreadsheet thing with little tags, wallet size things, bigger pictures that you could take home every picture day every year. And so this was one of the bookmarks from that. I don't know where the rest of the pictures went, but I have this one. And in this one, you can see before, right after my 2 front teeth fell out. Huh. There I am. So after that, right, I got this one. It says keep calm and carry on. On the back, it says copyright 2010. In case you're wondering, like, these are old bookmarks. Maybe it'll focus. There it is. And then on the back, there it is. I don't think you can see it. Oh, it wants to focus on my face. I hope you can see that. It says 2010. Yeah. And then I also had this bookmark. Again, I loved werewolves. This is from 2013. It's 3 wolves stacked on the top of each other. Can you see that? So cute. It's still trying to focus on my face. And then my boyfriend, oh, I don't have the other ones. I'm using one also. So I have Harry Potter. I actually have never read Harry Potter and I don't own any of the books. I have Harry Potter bookmarks here. This is Ron's dad, Mr. Weasley, Father Weasley. There he is. I also have, I forgot what the name of these are. Your spirit animal, I guess. There's a word for them. I don't remember what it is. But it's the doe or the deer, whatever. I have a 3rd one. I think it's Snape. I don't know where it is right now. I think it's on my other shelf. And then I just recently bought these 2 Studio Ghibli. Oh my God. I have to pick that up. The little ribbon just fell off. I've got these 2 little Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, I say Ghibli, bookmarks. Aren't they so cute? I love them. And I think, I don't remember what book it was, but it matched. I think I used this one for one of my books and the color matched perfectly with the book. Just the pastels, you can never go wrong. I painted this one. It's not good. I did it in the dark in a picnic for my friend's birthday party. And you know, this is like, oh, you can hear my chair. That's not me, it's my chair. I painted it in the dark, so I think I did pretty well for the dark. If I did it in the light, I think it'd come out 10 times better. But I had an idea of painting a bunch of these wooden bookmarks to match the books. So let me know if you're interested in that. And then lastly, I got this bookmark and I got another one. And I think it's on my other shelf. I don't know where they are, I'm sorry. But I got this bookmark and it says, good girls read spicy books. Come on, there we go. And it's from a new romance-only bookstore, which is literally perfect for me. My friend Erica, again, she's a real one. She and I went to the opening of it. I think it was the 2nd day where it was open to the public. We went and it was fantastic. We had such a good time. And I bought this bookmark. I bought a shirt that says Hot Girls Read Books. Something like that, I don't remember. I'll put it on screen. It's such a cute shirt. And I think it's like Taylor Swift inspired. I'm not a Swiftie, so I think so. The New Romantics, they were playing Taylor Swift songs. I don't know. But yeah, that's my bookmark collection. Thank you.